everybody, my name is Soulless Convoy, and today I am taking a look at FansHobby MB-08B Helmsman, which is their version of Skyquake, a Predator from the end of G1, only released in Europe. This is on loan to me from my friend Cricket. Thank you to Cricket for making this video possible. Those of you who've watched my content know this is a much larger scale of toy that I usually look at, so you'll have to excuse me if the setup looks a bit weird or if the gallery photos are different than usual. My usual setup doesn't accommodate toys that are this large. I believe he's 14.5 inches tall, so he's quite big. The box is also massive, and I literally cannot fit it in frame at all. So just take my word for it, it's a cool box. This guy is a convention exclusive. I believe they're all sold out now, which is really unfortunate. I'm not a huge fan of exclusivity. I'll talk about that later, but just going over the figure as a whole, it does look gorgeous. That head sculpt, especially if we zoom in, is really pretty. I believe these head sculpts are made by a really popular customizer in the TF community called Get Right Robot, who does them all for all of the FansHobby exclusives, and they really are a step above FansHobby's usual output, in my opinion. It helps they all have masks, so they don't have like the usual poor faces that FansHobby toys have, but they do look really good. All of these head sculpts look great, and this is no exception. The detailing is wonderful. I love those blue stripes on the black, and the gold paint on this toy is gorgeous. The green paint, especially that neon green paint, is wonderful. You have this translucent green on the torso, which is awesome. It houses the Godmasters. This is a retool of Overlord, so it does carry over almost all of the features there. That gold plastic does look a lot like GPS plastic. They've done a wonderful job in replicating the shade. Obviously, they haven't replicated the infamous issues with that gold plastic, but it really is insane to see on a modern toy. The pink plastic is also nice. More of these wonderful paint apps. Also on the forearms. So it is painted pretty well. You're definitely getting your money's worth. This is a $295 toy, so it was a bit stressful to look at someone else's copy. That being said, I mean, some people might take issue with, again, it is just an Overlord head swap. I believe that's the only major retooling that happened, is just a new head. So it does still have Overlord's massive half of his jet mode just goes on his shoulder. That's just how Overlord rolls. It may not work for you for a character like Skyquake, who, you know, doesn't do that. Articulation is also kind of dubious for a toy of this MP scale, I guess. It is a little bit of a dated mold, but FansHobby has always struggled with having, you know, industry standard articulation. The head, though, is great. I mean, it is on a ball joint and a hinge assembly, so the hinge can get you all the way back, all the way forward, and the ball joint is pretty much extremely posable. There is one issue, though. The head comes off extremely easily, sometimes during transformation. The ball joint socket is molded strangely. It's like a perfect semicircle, and doesn't have a lot of grip on the actual ball joint. It's not a bad thing, I guess. It's better that it pops off instead of getting damaged or whatever, but it is kind of concerning on a $300 toy that is exclusive and hard to find. For the rest of the articulation, though, it's not going to be so great. The shoulders on ratchets, which are universal, but there's a lot of clashing, so you might get like 90 degrees. The ratchets are great, though. You can get like 90 degrees up. Kind of 90 degrees back if you hit it out to the side a bit. You would think you can't get much out to the side, but you can kind of. You have to, these are on double hinges, and you can like hinge them up and out of the way, and that'll get you basically close to 90, which is nice. The elbows are kind of disappointing, though. I'm going to just show you right here. There's a double jointed elbow, and they're both ratcheted, but really no matter how you do it, you're only getting 90 degrees because of the sculpting. It clashes, which is just really sad for a double jointed elbow on a masterpiece toy, I think. God, it's so appalling. It's making me sick. It's not a big issue, obviously. I mean, articulation is, you know, how important it is subjective, but you would think if you go through the effort of having a double joint, you would make sure it actually works, right? There is an ab crunch, but it's pretty much nothing. I can't even really show it on camera. It's just a tiny friction joint in the top of his torso, and it can just rock like a little bit. Like, that's it. So do with that what you will. It's also friction, and some people have it kind of loose. So it's not really very useful or very pertinent. He does have a friction waist swivel, which is nice and tight. And I do believe it easily gets all the way around. He's huge, and I have a not great setup right now, so it's harder for me to do the whole thing. These hip skirts do go out to the side, which is awesome. These hip skirts are not as awesome. They're on like a complicated assembly they don't need to be on. And as a result of that, it's kind of hard to get them to go. There's like a ball joint here and then a hinge here. And it's just, I don't know, you could have just used one hinge, man. It doesn't really get you much more. You do get 90 degrees up. The legs weigh a ton though, and the ratchets will fail. Obviously to be expected, they weigh a lot. But they actually, you know what, they hold pretty well. The knees are weaker than the hips. You can also get, I think, this shoulder ratchet sometimes fails because of the weight of this thing though. The hips only kick out to 45 degrees anyways. It's not like a clashing thing with the arms. The sculpt literally just stops right here. So this is your maximum spread. It doesn't really matter though, because he couldn't hold that pose anyways. I'll get to that in a second. You have a thigh swivel, which goes not very much in at all, and 90 degrees out. That's because that's how his legs attach when he splits into his two alt modes. I think I showed the knee before. It's tight, but the weight is just so severe it will fail. There's a joint up here, which is really too high. It makes his thighs look too short. And then I believe there's a joint lower, which is nicer. With the two in unison, you can get a pretty solid double joint, so nearly all the way. That's awesome for a FansHobby toy. You can't really utilize it much on this figure because of his obscene size. He's not going to get any like really insane poses. Gravity and mass and the general cumbersome nature of the toy will work against you in that case, but it's nice to have. My big issue with this toy are his ankles, and I'm going to move the camera for this and focus on his feet. Hopefully you can see them. My lighting is really bad right now, I acknowledge that. The ankles, theoretically, they have this really nice sounding ratchet, and then they have a friction swivel that's really tight. So you would think that, like, you know, that's enough, and it's the due diligence for a toy this large. It doesn't seem to be an issue at first glance. And they even have slit pads on the bottom, which is great, right? But for some reason, he's just so prone to slipping and sliding and getting off balance. I think it's because of the way his weight is distributed. These are really heavy, then his torso is kind of light, and then he has a giant thing on his arm. I don't really know how to describe it, but there's something between like the way these ankles work, and you know, they don't really get that much range anyways. They only get like that much, and the base of the foot is kind of small. Like, they're not very wide compared to how big he is. But he's a real tendency to like wobble and lean. I'm gonna try to put him in like a more dynamic pose, just so you can see. And he does seem to be holding now. But if I start to push it, I wonder. Yeah, okay. The weight of the big arm is, I guess I'm being disingenuous because that arm is a lot of weight and I should counterbalance that when I pose it myself. But I have seen it slip just during the nature of regular posing. Like, you know, you can kind of see like the play it just kind of gives, and the thigh swivels are nowhere near tight enough, and they'll just kind of do that. So something to keep in mind, I guess, when you mess with this guy, is just that like those ankles are deceptive. They're not really as it's not a tolerance thing or a tightness thing. It's just like the way they're designed, and the amount of space or contact they have with the ground isn't really enough for this toy. He's just too big and too cumbersome to rely on feet that aren't that large. But for the most part, articulation is... Oh, I entirely forgot. Hands, you do have full wrist swivel, and then you have usual FansHobby hands. If you've handled any larger FansHobby toy, they're all the same. The sculpts are even identical. He has 3 knuckles, and then the wrist is on a ball joint in 1 knuckle. There is no splay. I'm being really fast on those because Naval Commander has the exact same sculpt, Energy Commander has the exact same sculpt. They all use the same exact hands. It's kind of, I don't know, it doesn't really work. I don't like the proportions either. The fingers are just, the fingers feel too long in my opinion. Posability is a mixed bag, I'd say. I mean, he's not supposed to be really dynamic and athletic, but I think the most important thing was having like a good base and a grounding base, and even with slip pads, he's still slipping. So I feel like that one thing, the ankles, and I know people complain about the ankles on the original use of this mold too, and I wish they'd maybe done something to revise them. I'm gonna take a look at his accessories in a second. So accessories and features for FansHobby Skyquake. First of all, he does have the one in his hand. This is one of the only new things included with this toy. It is the cannon from their double dealer mold. It also comes with the front half of the missile. There's nothing to do with this front half in his robot mode unless you have him hold the whole thing, and this is like, you can imagine the amount of leverage there is from having the handle back here. Even his bicep swivel is friction and it will fail if you try to use the whole thing, simply due to leverage. But you can take off the tip and put it nowhere, extend the barrel, and then if you press this button at the back, we can light up back there, press it again, lights up there. Pretty cool. He can hold it. This part clashes with his hand, so he can only go like so far up the handle, and it is a really tight fit. So as you can see, he's not really very far up the handle, which is not ideal. He has another blaster, which is the original Overlord gun. This one he can handle a lot better. It can fit all the way in his hand, and it stores in his alternate mode. I appreciate them still including this one because they've removed some accessories, which has been like a trend for these exclusives, I guess, to cut costs, even though they're more expensive than the base toolings, which is really sad. But they removed a claw arm and like this double barrel blaster that are mainly for base mode, so I guess it's whatever. You can open these and take out the Godmasters. I'll go over their robot modes later, but if you make sure that this ab crunch is tilted all the way back and you press down on the Godmaster, it should activate a feature, so these missiles will spring out, and then on this side, this blaster will flick out. So really cool to have. Referencing the original G1 toy, the Godmasters would activate special features, and I think that's awesome. You can take them out and all that. He has these missiles. These are the same missiles as the other FansHobby exclusives. Note that they didn't actually retool the mold to fit them. They included these new adapters. So you can put this into the adapter and then put that into the figure itself. It's a solution. I don't know if some retooling would have killed them, or changing them sculpt on these so they work with this toy. Because sometimes these will fall off, but I guess, I mean, it is a solution. There are some other features on this, but they more tie into the other modes. But for the most part, that's it for his robot mode, and I'll have some size comparisons up in a second. So for size comparisons, as I said, he stands between 14.5 to 15 inches, so I figured it'd be good to show him with both other FansHobby toys and some examples of toys from other scales. Here's a Naval Commander, one of their Armada Optimus, and then nothing else fits in frame, so let me lower this. And then that is Masterpiece Sunstreaker. It's the KO, but same size. So you can see that he comes up to about his shin. That's a Deluxe, who also comes up to, I would say, maybe 3/4 of the way of his shin. Note that he's in an A stance as well. And then I can't even get it on camera, but at the bottom there is a Corp class Bombburst, who I think is about 1/3 of the way up his shin. So he's a very large toy. I think he might be 15 inches tall, nearly. I think he's just under 15 inches tall. I might be mistaken, but do let me know if I got that measurement wrong. I will be transforming him soon, and we'll take a look at his multiple modes. Here is two alternate modes. Because I can't fit both of them in frame comfortably, I'll take a look at them one at a time. And we'll start with his jet mode. It's a pretty nice jet. Again, most of the mass comes from that thing on the giant thing on his shoulder, which is obviously the nose cone, the front half of the jet. It's really large, really weighty. I believe it is, well, no, believe. Well, it's well over a foot long. I do think it's approximately maybe 16 or 17 inches from top to end. Not exactly. Wingspan is respectable, obviously on the shorter side. You can see those missiles underneath. This is the only place on any alt mode where you can store the large cannon. It tabs in back there. You can open the cockpit, and I have placed one of the Godmasters inside, which is cool. There is landing gear. You can retract the front landing gear, but you do have to untransform his arms to retract the rear landing gear, which is not ideal. It does roll, kind of, and it is pretty swooshable. The transformation to get here is also pretty fun. Taking a look at the tank mode, it's a respectable tank. Really nice ratchet for the turret. It can look up, down a little bit, and it can ratchet 45 degrees in both directions. I like the detailing in the paint here. The jet mode has a lot more tampographs and details, which look really nice, but this one is pretty cool as well. It also has a cockpit, and you can also put one of the Godmasters inside. It also has a hidden missile launcher, which is really cool. I mean, it doesn't fire any missiles, but it looks nice. And then there are these compartments here, but they store things for the base mode. This one also stores the Overlord gun right here and the ramp from base mode on the bottom, which was on his back before. I want to talk about this thing really quickly. I'm really not a fan of plastic being this thin, and then when you go to bend it on the hinge, you need to bend it. It sounds like that. That's just uncomfortable. That's just uncomfortable. There's a bunch of places on this figure that do that, and you also have to separate this and put it on top of the cockpit thing in robot mode, and I shouldn't have to put this much force on something so thin. I'm just saying. I mean, obviously, if I pull straight, then I won't shear or damage these theoretically. Like, if I do this, they'll break, but, like, I understand that. User error if you break them, sure, whatever. But, like, this shouldn't be, like, it doesn't have to be this thin. You could easily afford to make this thicker. This is an issue I have with FansHobby. They make these really playable, feature-loaded toys, and then they include these panels like this. I mean, just... It's not comfortable. It's not comfortable. I mean, like, sure, maybe it's just me being sensitive or tactile, but I don't like it. You know, it's not something that I enjoy. The treads are rubber. They don't, like, roll like some of their other treads on their other toys. This is older, so I guess they didn't have that technology yet. But they are rubber, which is nice. And it is a really hefty, solid tank. So, pretty good alt mode. Here it is next to a deluxe, and oh boy, let's do it this way. Here's jet mode next to a deluxe, so you can see this thing is absolutely massive. But yeah, for the most part, the alt modes both look pretty good. I will take a look at his final mode in a second. Here's base mode. I know most people don't care about base modes. I really do. It's why I own their Naval Commander, for example, is solely for the base mode. Let me go out a bit. Here is a deluxe for scale. So it is rather large and imposing. I will say the issue I have with this base mode mainly comes down to the fact that it's not really something you can pick up and play with. The connections here are kind of a joke. It's resting on these spring-loaded shoulder pylons, and I don't even think it, like, rests completely flat. This part is always tilting backwards. It feels very unstable. and like these just wiggle. They're only connected on a single tab here. It's not really a robust base mode that invites play. This doesn't actually go here. This has nowhere to go. I just put it here, so it's like, you know, it has somewhere to be. Obviously you can turn on the cannon, which is nice. There are some features. There's like the missile thing here. These parts, that radar dish, that dish and that radar assembly are stored in here and here respectively, so the dedicated storage is nice. There's supposed to be a double barrel blaster that goes here that was included with Overlord. This release doesn't have it. And there's supposed to be a claw arm that comes out of here. That's not included with this release as well. Why those were cut, I don't really know. It's weird. They didn't really cost that much to include in the first place. I don't understand why a $300 exclusive needs cost cutting. The cool thing about the base mode is at least, like, you know, you can have one of the Godmasters in that cockpit, and then you can have another Godmaster manning this turret, which is nice. You know, and I'll just take out that Godmaster, and you know, you can like pose the turret. Oh wait, you can't. You can just tilt it up and down. You can't swivel it. I'm sorry. But here is our Godmaster. Let me zoom in. So the head sculpt is actually really nice for this little scale. I think they have identical head sculpts, so I won't go over both. The shoulders only go out to here, which is nice. They can do a forward and back. The rear is chrome. They have elbows, very tight, but nothing else. The hips are kind of weird. They can go out like this much. There's a ball joint in here. That ball joint can also rock back and forth, and then there's a hinge which can kick. So it's a very strange hip design. Knees that get past 90, and that's it. They have a head swivel as well. And the engine parts themselves are chromed. I apologize for any fingerprints. Finger trips, Jesus Christ. But I don't know. I mean, it looks imposing and it looks cool. Like, it clearly looks like it has like a tower setup of some sort. There's a ramp, which I guess you could use. It's not bad visually. I think it would be cool in a base mode display. I just think that it doesn't feel very, like, this connection here is just, there's just nothing holding this together. You can't like pick it up and transport it. You have to pick it up and transport it in like 3 pieces. And it just feels like it's resting precariously on itself. So I kind of feel like this isn't a great base mode. And I was kind of disappointed personally. I had high expectations after Naval Commander because that is a really good base mode, and this does not. So, final thoughts for FansHobby Helmsman. I want to say off rip, this video feels a bit, I don't know. I never want to say pointless, because any video I make is mostly for my own enjoyment. I just get to talk about toys that I like, and I do really like this toy. I haven't really touched on it in the video itself, but I think it's absolutely gorgeous. It might be one of the prettiest figures FansHobby's ever done. It's one of the prettiest figures I've seen coming out of any company. It's so striking, and it's so nice in hand. Even the proportions look really awesome, like the sculpting of the thighs, the shape of the thighs is really cool. Some of the sculpted detail is amazing, and it's just a really beautiful figure. And it's kind of like a dichotomy where I'm looking at a FansHobby toy, which I assume I'll have fun playing with, and I'm not getting that fun playing time. That feels almost strange to me, that this is like a display piece, and it's a fantastic display centerpiece, especially if you have the other Predators. But I guess anyone who has the other Predators has already bought this and has already owned this for a week. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I understand that my opinion is just me talking into the void of the internet, but maybe sometimes it can help someone like make an informed purchase, like either don't pick something up or maybe pick something up you skipped out on with a new perspective. But in this case, I mean, it's come and gone, right? And that's like the main issue, is that like someone who finds this a year later and wants this toy is not going to be able to get it unless they pay $500. It's already a huge ask at the $300 retail price, which is also a $60 to $80 increase over Overlord itself. It's expensive, and I guess I was kind of hoping that the whole experience would be nailed, and I just feel like posing the bot mode is just a real chore with those ankles. I can't really describe why they feel so janky. I was playing with my MMC Ruination today, which is an all-in-one combiner, and this thing slips more. And this thing has non-slip pads on the feet. I really don't get it. The tolerances for the most part are actually good, but then when they're bad, they're bad. Like that ramp piece I showed you, there's a few small tabs and panels, which I don't understand why FansHobby keeps including small tabs and panels. I guess this is an older mode, so still is not relevant to this toy, but I don't get it. I mean, you're making the most playable toys in third party loaded with play features and accessories and gimmicks that other companies just refuse to pay attention to, and then you're making these thin plastic panels that take away from the play experience. It feels counterintuitive. The alt modes, also getting there is fine, but there's always like this one step that's really annoying. Like there's these really thin panels on the side of the tank mode that are just hilariously thin for how long they are, so they have an insane amount of leverage if you pick it from the end. Tabbing the nose cone / cockpit assembly onto the main body of the jet is nightmarish sometimes. The sounds that it makes are not sounds you want to hear on a $300 toy you don't own. Trust me, it was not fun. The entire presentation, though, again, is second to none. It's gorgeous. It's not just the best FansHobby exclusive ever. I think it's one of the best TFCon exclusives ever. I cannot blame anyone who saw this and immediately said, I need it, because the visual appeal alone is more than enough to justify someone picking this up. It is show-stopping, it's jaw-dropping, but that's not why I buy FansHobby toys, or at least that's my personal take. That's my completely personal take. I understand if you don't care at all. I understand most people would not even think about the base mode. They wouldn't even try putting it in the base mode. But I do, and I just want to give it a holistic, complete look, I suppose. In the end, my verdict doesn't matter. Again, you know, if you want this, you probably already have it, and if you don't already have it, I have to apologize. I don't have any nice things to say about the way Chosen Prime distributes these toys. That's just the crux of the matter. I'm not a fan at all of the whole FOMO concept, but it is what it is. Thank you again to Cricket for letting me take a look at this toy. It's a toy that I would never have been able to procure and, you know, mess with on my own. So it's awesome that I got to take a look at it. It truly is gorgeous, and I'm sure it's going to look wonderful on your shelf. And yeah, I mean, I know this is a bit of a different review. Maybe I'll have a Legends toy for my next review. Probably not. We'll see. But thank you again, guys. Again, I always appreciate you who tune into my weekly, bi-weekly, monthly ramblings. And see y'all next time. Peace.